Welcome back to the Speaking and Communicating podcast. I am your host, Roberta. If you are looking to improve your communication skills, both professionally and personally, this is the podcast you should be tuning into. And by the end of this episode, please remember to subscribe, give a rating, and a review. Today, I have the pleasure to be joined by Joel Silverstone. He is a senior professional skills trainer and coach at the great Canadian training and consulting company. And before doing that, he used to be a professional actor at Canada's very own Hollywood. Joe is also a host of the Great Canadian Leadership Podcast. And before I go any further, please help me welcome him to the show. Good morning, Joel.
Good morning. It sounds like the beginning of the Muppets. It's Joel and Roberta.
I'm finally here.
Yeah. It's time to get dressed up. I can't remember how the song goes.
You see, you can tell you're an actor. You can improve right on the spot.
A long time ago.
Yes, Joel. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you for that warm introduction, Roberta. And let's just start with when I saw that there was a podcast, that you have a podcast on communication skills. I knew I wanted to have a discussion with you. You've done such a great job of bringing so many different guests on this podcast. So thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to talk communication skills, which is a passion of mine for the past 20 years. Yes, a long time ago, I was a professional actor, but for the past 20 years, I've been speaking at conferences, presenting, delivering training, coaching, designing training, all on leadership, difficult conversations, which is what we're going to be talking about today, how to give feedback, and communicate to really to collaborate, because I always believe, and we've all seen it, that in every conversation, there's a turning point. And it's so subtle, that turning point in the conversation, where it could go either way. And that's what I'm fascinated with was, that was the clue and cue that you could have gone deeper to that relationship, where you could have created more collaboration, or you could have made that person feel recognized, understood, validated. And instead you missed that moment, and now the person has gone to silence, or they've withdrawn, or they've gone into sort of a fight mode, if you want, so to speak. So that's my fascination with that. And then at the Great Canadian Training and Consulting Company, I am the senior professional skills trainer and coach, where we have an extensive library of courses that I lead those courses around the soft skills, around the communication skills, because what we're seeing in the industry is that these skills of communication, and thank you for doing this podcast, Roberta, is now essential skills. They're essential skills. And I think that's what people are seeing now. And that's what we know. The challenges for HR and learning departments is that with all this technology going, and it's going at such a rapid pace, that our ability to connect with each other, to collaborate, is becoming more and more important. And also our emotional intelligence, how we handle stress and how we handle each other, is becoming more important in this day and age, with the remoteness and with all the technology and the distractions that we're having.
Very, very key points you mentioned there. First of all, when it comes to soft skills, I had a guest before who said a lot of the executives she works with, they say, listen, I can teach them the technical. Because, Joe, let's be honest, university can only teach you so much about the actual day-to-day job. Yes, you learn that technical skill, but when you come to work, they actually show you how things are done.
Yeah.
So a lot of the executives say, I can teach them the technical, no problem whatsoever. It's the soft skills that we struggle with.
Yeah. What's amazing, Roberta, you nailed it, is that, working with so many leaders and executives, and when you work one-on-one with them, when you do the coaching, how so many of them share, I hope nobody knows I don't know what I'm doing. Like, they know, like they got into this role because of the skills that they have, that they were good in sales, or they were good in time management, or they're good in processes or tasks. But when it comes to managing the people, that becomes a whole other story. So you can manage that data, however you want to say it. But managing the people is something you don't learn in school. And that's why these skills, of professional skills, is becoming so essential.
When we said the very foundation of this podcast, because I've been working in corporate since 95, the very foundation of it was the higher you go, the less the technical
Yeah.
and the more the managing of people and project teams, because you are now going to delegate and get them to work towards the common goal. So as you said, the person came here with the technical skills and like so suddenly I don't know what I'm doing, because you now have to put this team together and see things from a bird's eye view instead of I'm sitting in a cubicle and I'm programming.
Exactly. And, as we see this trend now, so many people looking to see that the grass is greener somewhere else. And if you ask them why they're leaving, it's number one is because, they didn't feel recognized, validated. They didn't feel that heard, understood. Yeah. And they somehow think that, and organizations invest a lot in ping pong tables or perks, but are not maybe investing enough in their people, especially their managers and their leaders, who need to put more time into connecting one-on-one with their team, or even one as a team, to make sure that everybody feels heard and validated and recognized, but also giving constructive feedback that helps them grow. It doesn't always have to be participation medals.
No.
It can also be constructive feedback, but with constructive feedback, it always has to be very specific, and it has to be about not the person, but the issue. What is it that they sort of need to develop, versus, me saying, Roberta, you need to be more confident. That doesn't help you.
So vague. I have
so
no
vague.
idea.
Yeah.
If I stood up now, I have no idea what you'll expect me to do.
Exactly. And so that kind of feedback too, people think, oh, I'm giving feedback because I said Roberta needs to be more confident. Well, no, now you just shut down Roberta, because she's like, yeah, your mind is spinning. What does that mean? And now my leader thinks I'm not confident.
Which shuts it down even more. But yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny you talk about exit interviews and moving to greener pastures. Yesterday, I literally had someone say he does he looks at the surveys, the studies, the percentages of how many people are living not because they need more money or are chasing more money.
Right.
They are living because of my crappy boss, of how I was treated. And a lot of the time, people are afraid to be honest at exit interviews and say that,
right,
because they're afraid to burn bridges just in case things don't work out and you're thinking, it was bad, but I need to come back and pay my mortgage and feed my kids. So when they are being honest about it, they'll say, oh yeah, more money. But they actually, majority of exits are due to bad management.
Yeah. And, and bad management, it's, I would say, nobody sets out to be a bad manager.
No. Yeah, of course not.
So it's like, so somehow, we don't group them up and go, there's a bunch of evil
managers
out there.
No one goes out to be vindictive at all.
No, exactly. They're not doing it on purpose. Like, it's just a lack of investment in the training and development of these skills, of these soft skills, of where your intention was. My intention was good. I just said Roberta needs to be more confident. So I was giving her feedback. What do you want from me? But it's not realizing, because we said, we don't have, if I'm an employee, I might not go up to my manager and leader and go, hey, you know what, that feedback actually is really not helpful, and now my mind is spinning. We should actually do that, and we could say it in a better way than I just did, but that will help them. But it's also that this sort of lack of where your intentions match your words. So the intention didn't match the words. When the manager says you need to be more confident, the intention was, I want to help you be better, but it didn't match the words.
I just didn't have the right words to get the message across for you and to interpret my intention the way that I had it. Now, when it comes to your acting career, what are some of the takeaways from that you now use in your communication skills training and coaching?
Number one is about being present. So we always think acting is you put on this mask and then you become this character, but you don't. What you actually are doing is you're learning people always ask, how would you remember all these lines? So if you're doing a Shakespearean play, how would you remember that? We don't talk like this. So how do you remember all these lines? Well, you don't remember the lines. You remember the intention. Why is my character saying this? What is beneath this? And then when you start thinking about the intention, You stop thinking about yourself. You stop thinking about trying to memorize just words that have no meaning. The words now have meaning. And this helps you to be present so that each time you're saying that, you go back to the intention. And what the importance of being present in acting is, especially when you're doing like film and TV, you do take after take after take after take, saying the same thing over and over again. We're not going to believe you unless you are fully committed to that moment. So that means that we don't see your brain thinking ahead of the next question you're going to ask. We don't see your brain thinking about the lines. We see that you fully believe what you are saying and that you're basically trying to move the other person or move the audience with what you're trying to cause that emotion, you're trying to get them to love you or to collaborate or to hate you or whatever that is. You're focused on the other person. So acting is really not focused on yourself. It's really being focused on, what am I trying to do here? And how is this going to affect the other person and this moment, in this moment alone, and not thinking ahead. So that's what being present is, I think, about the acting. And then the other one is I did many years of improvisation, and there's this famous rule of improvisation, which is yes and. I don't know if you're familiar. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
No.
Let's do something here. You want to do a little exercise?
Ready. Yes.
All right. Roberta, let's pretend you and I work at the same company. All right. And we are deciding that we're going to have now that we're all back together, we're going to have a big company get together in next spring, 2023. We're going to have a big company get together next spring. So we have to come up with some ideas. We're on the committee to come up with ideas for what we should do. All right. So we're going to brainstorm some ideas. Just so you know, Roberta, ahead of time, I'm always going to be answering with yes, but.
Yes, just so you know. But okay.
I'm going to be answering. You're going to throw some ideas about our company retreat, and I'll be working alongside you. But just so you know ahead of time, I'm forewarning you, I will be answering with yes, but.
Okay, ready.
You ready? Here we go. Start us off.
Do you think that we plant enough trees to replace the ones that we are cutting off and use wood for?
Yes, but that requires manual labor, and then we probably have to start investing in gloves and boots for everybody. And I don't know. And people, like, physically, are they able to do that? I don't know.
Do you think as humans we are progressing as a civilization, or
we're talking about the company retreat? We're planning a company retreat.
Do you think that we are making progress? We are going forward. We are better than we were yesterday.
Yes, but I think with us working remotely, I think we've all taken a few steps back, for sure. All right, so we'll pause right there. Pause right there, because this is hard. So now we're gonna do it again, and again we're planning our company retreat. Same questions, same two questions, Roberta. Just so you know, now I'm going to answer with yes and. Okay. So quick question: was I asking relevant questions? Yes. We'll debrief this in 2 seconds.
All right.
Let's same two questions, but now I'm going to answer with the yes and this is the purpose of the exercise. Is answer with yes and.
All right.
Here we go.
Do you think that we are planting enough trees to replace the ones that we cut?
Yes, and I like this idea of how can we make the theme for our company retreat maybe an environmental theme, and maybe tree planting could be something that we could discuss as a possibility. I like that. Yeah.
Do you think that as a species we are making progress, that we're moving forward and we are becoming better than we were yesterday?
Yes, and I want to believe that we are getting better. I think we did take some steps back with the remote, and I look forward to the possibilities of what we have learned from being remote and how we could have some discussions about collaboration and communication. And maybe this is so timely to have that company retreat then, where we can come together and discuss what we want to see as our vision or as our mission for the future, and how we could be more stronger as a culture. All right, pause right there. Roberta, how did you feel when I was answering with yes, but?
I felt like you are more focused on the problem. And so it makes me feel more despondent
Yeah.
about the potential, about the future, or whatever it is we were discussing. I felt like you are so focused on the problem. So it's almost like things are getting darker.
That's
Or,
right.
yeah, you just, I'm trying to be optimistic. You're moving me to the
I
pessimistic
know.
side of things.
I know. I'm a downer. And then how did you feel when I was answering with yes and?
Even though I might have had concerns with the two questions, and
Yeah.
that's why I asked the questions,
Mm-hmm.
the end, you just came with potential solutions. So what
Mm-hmm.
it makes me feel like more confident again, more confident about the possibilities that, hey, we might not have a solution now, but there's hope.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it even changes my mindset as well, because I'm thinking, yes, we might not always go with every solution you suggested, but at least there's potential exploration. We can look into something, and like I said, that there's hope, there's optimism,
Mm-hmm.
which creates enthusiasm now for the strategic getaway. Because before I'm like, so all we're going there for is to just talk about problems. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there you go. So everything you just shared is exactly the purpose of this exercise is when it's going back to our intentions. So yes, but it's intentions don't match my words. So I think I'm saying yes, and I'm giving a but afterwards, and then I just go down that hole of that. So all you never heard the yes, you just heard the problems.
Yeah.
When I said yes, and I may not have agreed with what you were saying that we're going to go plant trees as an example, but I'm adding to the idea. I'm giving some possibilities to that. So it's not that I was coming up with a solution, but I'm adding to that. I'm encouraging the idea, and I'm getting towards collaboration. So you feel more confident to share your ideas, more confident to brainstorm, and yes and doesn't mean that I have to agree with you, but yes and is instead of trying to find the holes in it, is trying to find where we have some common ground with what you're saying. And that's
Right.
the
And
idea of
then
it.
take, like you said, doesn't mean yes, you came up with a solution immediately,
Yeah,
but the common ground means we are going to explore and brainstorm where we could go with this and make things better.
that's right. And so this is really the goal for communicating in difficult conversations is where can I find these yes and moments? It doesn't mean you have to
Mm.
use the words yes and, but it's that mindset of, okay, instead of trying to make you look bad or trying to make you look or trying to win the argument, because this is the thing about a difficult conversation. When we go into a difficult conversation, you have to let go of trying to win the argument. Let go of that. Let it go.
Mm.
Because the goal is not to win. The goal is to get to where can we collaborate, or where can we again, the intention, where can I create trust, where can I, because if you and I are going to be working together in the same organization, we need to have a good relationship. And if I just keep pushing my ideas and you keep pushing your ideas, well, then we're two magnets coming against each other. It's it's never going to
The
click.
South and the South.
Yeah, it's just never going to click. But if I have a mindset of not react but respond. So react is right away with as soon as you start saying about the planting the trees, I start getting into no, 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 no. And it comes out with yes, but, and then this is never going to work and da 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 da. But if I respond, which is count to 1, 2, 1, 2, how do I want to respond to this? How can I keep this conversation going? How can I find some mutual ground? How can I think of the bigger picture, which is at the end of the day, Roberta and I are on this committee to work together to come to this. So we're going to be together from now until spring 2023 working on this committee. So we have to find a way to work together. So if I make Roberta feel understood, feel appreciated,
Heard,
heard,
validated.
then Roberta will, at the end, we'll have mutual respect, because then Roberta will be open to my ideas as well. Roberta will listen to me as well. So I have to park my ego. As I always say in a difficult conversation, one of us has to be the adult in the relationship or have taken acting classes. and the adult in the relationship is exactly that, is that one of us just has to be able to put my ego aside, be focused on the other person, and be focused on the bigger picture. What's my intention? Which is and again, another another thing from acting or from improvisation is rule number one was yes and. Rule number two is always make the other person look good.
Oh, when
Always.
when most of the time we are trying to look good.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
So you think about it when you're watching something on stage, an improvisation, and if you see another actor trying to embarrass the other actor on stage, it's people are going to be turned off. And yet, but yet in life, in business, we do that all the
We
time.
do. That's
We try to make the other person feel smaller. Go, that's boy, that's really not a good idea. And I'll give you 5 reasons why that's not a good idea.
And here's the thing, when it comes to personal relationships,
Yeah,
first of all, when you say, oh, I want to win this argument, what exactly did you win?
that's right.
If the other person walks away, like you said, there was no collaboration, you just wanted your ego to just come through and win this up. What exactly did you win? What is the
Yeah.
price?
Yeah, because it's you maybe short-term win. Yeah, yay. But long
Muppets.
term, forget it. There will be no trust. This person will not listen to you now anymore because they don't trust you. And you can't take it back what just happened, how you made that person feel. And here's the thing, this is what neuroscience tells us. Neuroscience tells us that we make our decisions first emotionally, and then we use logic to substantiate it afterwards. And we forget about this, that we make our decisions emotionally first. And do I feel heard? Do I feel understood? Do I feel appreciated? Do I feel recognized? Do I feel validated? And then we use logic. So when we're arguing, we tend to use logic first and go, no, you're not listening to me. Here's the 5 reasons why this is going to work. And we just give logic, but we're not understanding what the emotion might be behind that. And
And
I'll
the
give you,
emotion we're triggering on the person, like you were doing at the exercise with me, and you
yeah.
asked me what emotion was triggered when you gave the yes but answers, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Exactly, because you didn't hear really what the issue was. I said, no, yes, but we need to hire boots and we need to, people physically. You didn't
I
even hear
barely
all that.
remember that part. Yeah, I just remember feeling very, oh, he's just pointing at the problem. I don't think this is going to work.
So there we go. That's exactly it, is that once your emotions kick in, you're not even hearing any of the facts that I'm saying why this won't work. You're not even hearing anymore because right now you feel dismissed. And so your brain is now going into overdrive because we have something called self-talk, which
Yes,
is
in a dialogue.
yeah, we're back to acting. We're writing the script in our head all the time. We think about 450 words per minute, but we can only say about 150. So that means there's about 300 words every minute. That's like that, when you go to the souvenir store and you shake that little globe and all the snowflakes are flying around. That's what's going on every minute. Those 300 words and that we're not conscious of, but that are negative, judgmental often. So like when I'm dismissing your ideas, you might be thinking, oh, I knew it. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not fast enough. Why am I on this committee? I knew this was not, right. All these things are going into, you're judging yourself, and it's got nothing to do with you. It's, you're just being triggered because I'm saying yes, but those 2 little words.
Earlier, you mentioned your brain going ahead and thinking ahead because you want to listen to respond.
Yeah.
Can you just explain to us what the problem with that is? Because you said in acting, one thing you learn to master is being present. But if
Yes.
somebody is expressing their grievances and you are just waiting it's like sometimes it's not even an argument. Sometimes it's just friends crying on your shoulder. And instead of fully listening, you are waiting to say the right thing to help them with their problem so they stop crying. What is the
Yeah.
problem with that?
You just added the key word there is problem, is that we're trying to solve the problem. So your friend is crying, or your coworker is saying, oh, I'm so frustrated with my project manager. They keep changing the scope of the project, and this keeps happening to me, or my computer. And you want, from a good place, you want to solve it, right? Your intention is good, but that's logic to solve the problem. What they really want to feel at that moment is they really want to feel heard, maybe even empathized with or acknowledged. Right. They want their emotions have to be spoken to. So that's what listening is. Listening is not thinking ahead. And this is hard because 75% of the time we are distracted while we're listening. And not distracted by our technology. We're distracted because we're thinking of that great question we're going to ask. We're thinking
Especially
about.
if you're a podcast host, I'm sure you can relate.
That's right. That's right. While the person is speaking, you're going, I should listen to this because I'm going to ask him a question about this. And as you're trying to think of the question you're going to ask, you missed what I said. So that's one of the, and then the other part is if you're trying to solve the problem, the friend is crying or your coworker is complaining about something, all you're thinking about is, okay, maybe they could do this, maybe they could do this. You're thinking of, you're solving, but you're missing the opportunity to go, wow, hey, that sounds really like frustrating. That sounds really difficult. That sounds like that was a really challenging time. And stop right there. Like just
define the emotion they are feeling.
Yeah. Empathy is probably the most overused word in training. I
saw your video or your YouTube video on it. Yeah.
it's used so much in training. And what I've seen in so many businesses is people don't know how to put empathy into business because they confuse it with personal, which is if your friend is crying, you right away would go into a very empathetic or even a sympathetic state and just go, oh no, that's horrible. Oh, I can't believe that. But in business, we don't quite know, we don't quite feel comfortable to go, oh no, that's horrible.
Because you're trying to act professional. That's right.
You're trying to act professional. So there's something called cognitive empathy, which is maybe you're complaining about your project manager and saying this happened and that happened and they don't get it and they keep changing the scope of your project. And I like the project manager, so I don't agree with you, but it's important to you and that's how you feel. And so cognitive empathy has nothing to do with me. I don't share your feelings, but cognitive empathy it sounds like it's been a really difficult go on that project. It's just recognizing for that person what's going on in their world. It doesn't mean I agree with you. It's just talking about the situation, not about the person. It sounds like it has been a really difficult project.
Right. Now let's talk about back to collaboration as well.
Yeah.
A lot of marriage counselors would say, don't fight each other. Fight together with it and fight the problem. The issue is outside, but what you're doing right now, the way you guys are arguing is you are fighting each other. Instead of collaborating, you are competing with each other to see, again, who's going to win. Why is usually that the first mode, so to speak, that we go to when we disagree?
Well, one is again, we're trying to protect ourselves. That's our natural instinct is we're fighting to save our pride. We're fighting to save our ego. We're fighting to not look stupid. We just have this innate ability that we need to win and to prove that we're right. But the switch in that, and this is, I'm going to borrow from this like 50-year-old book called Getting to Yes, which is a book on negotiation skills. And what they say in that book, number one, is separate the person from the problem. So going back to what you're saying about, the two people fighting each other and saying each other is the problem. And I'll paraphrase that. And what I like to say is soft on the person, hard on the problem. So I'll
Please say that again.
Yeah, soft on the person, hard on the problem. And so what that means is I'll be, thinking about more like what you and I, Roberta, if we're in a disagreement and we're seeing each other as a problem, well, maybe look at what the problem is. So thinking that almost like we're sitting side by side and we're looking at the problem together and trying to figure the problem out together. And that's what being soft on the person, hard on the problem, instead of me being hard on you and then sugarcoating the problem. So maybe, again, like this issue about we had different opinions about the company retreat. We're not going to fix it if you and I have completely different ideas of what it should be. If I'm just angry at you and going, Roberta doesn't listen to me, Roberta is not agreeing with me, Roberta has completely different opinions about it, I make you the problem. But the problem isn't you. The problem is we're thinking of our whole organization and how can we create a great company retreat for the whole organization. And that's the problem we need to look at together. And so I need to be more empathetic to you.
Just like you were talking about the example of me saying, oh, I cannot believe my boss did this, and telling my other colleague, and they say, oh, he's actually very good.
That's right. That's right. And that's again, like, I'm not really listening to you. And I think I'm being, again, bad intention. I think I'm being empathetic. Oh, that boss is a really good person. You should give them a chance. And I think I'm being empathetic. It's, again, misdirected intention, where my intentions don't match my words. My intention really was, I'm trying to make you feel good. That's my intention. But
Right.
the words are not matching that. And I
And
don't
that's
realize
not
it.
what I'm receiving.
That's not what you're receiving.
Mm.
It doesn't matter what I say. It's unless it's how you receive it. That's what matters. And so when we're communicating a difficult conversation, specifically, I want to think about, what am I going to say that's going to not to trigger you, basically, even further.
Right. Because everything boils down to emotion.
Well, it does, until we get to a point where we can start actually this idea of pull and push. So pulling is exactly that, like, where I'm trying to find a way to connect with you. I'm trying to find common ground. I'm empathizing with you. And then the idea of push becomes where we bring in the logic and the data afterwards, and go, okay, well, we could do this because this will support the company retreats, culture, and tree planting is good, because, then we get into the details. But until we speak to the emotions first, and you can lower your temperature, because that's the whole idea, is that the more we get into this heated argument, the more our temperature rises.
Of
So,
course, yes.
and then I like the example you said about the crying friend, and you want to make them feel better. And that's also our other challenge is, we can't just all of a sudden move you all the way over to happy very quickly. Oh, how many times have we said, you know what, tomorrow's another day, or at least you have your job, or
I'm going to take you for a steak dinner. You're going to forget all about them.
That's right. That's right. And that's just like, we're doing that for ourselves because we're uncomfortable. We don't want to, just, oh, can't you just feel better so that we can move on? I don't want to stay like this.
Please repeat that statement again.
Yeah.
That's very key, because a lot of us fall into
We're just doing
trap.
that because we are uncomfortable in this moment of somebody is showing a negative emotion, or we don't want them to be angry, upset, sad, scared. So we're trying to say quick solutions. Quick solutions don't work until the person's temperature is able to lower. But we can't get them over to happy. If your goal is just get them over to happy, forget it. It's like trying to win the argument. If that's your goal, just get them over to happy. It takes time. It takes time.
So we're doing that for ourselves. Wow.
Yeah. And I think as you say that, you can, I see that the wheels spinning about thinking about the times that you've been in a difficult conversation, and
because the intention is to help the friend.
Yeah,
You want to soothe the pain. I never looked at it like that.
It's all coming from a good place, but the intentions have to take a step back, and the intention has to be, first, how can I just work at lowering the temperature as an intention? Not get them over to happy, but just lower the temperature. So by listening, by empathizing. How can I find a way to get to collaboration? How can I find a way to make them feel bigger, not smaller, as an example? How can I find a way to maybe seek some common ground, or find a mutual purpose that we have, or focus on the future and not the past, as an example? Or soft on the person, hard on the problem.
Hard on the problem. I had a recent guest who, his name is Doug Knoll. He talks about how to de-escalate a situation by reiterating the person's emotions. Like I said, every time you've given an example, there always is the emotion tied to it. He said, oh, Joe, you are feeling frustrated, you are feeling hurt, you are feeling sad, literally naming the emotion instead of jumping and saying, I'm going to take you out for a steak dinner, you're going to forget all about this, tomorrow's another day. He literally says you should take it back to the mirror back the very emotion they've just given you, because while they're busy crying, that's not how they articulate it at the time.
Yeah.
So it's the emotions that you are frustrated, right? You are angry. you are this, naming them. I was like, oh wow, this puts it on a whole new perspective.
It
Yeah.
does. I like that. And I'll use yes and with this one.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, and there's I think there's a balance between telling the person what you see as the emotion and going out for the steak and going out for the steak or the vegan dinner that night. And the balance is, and this is why I think the challenge is in the corporate world, why empathy is so difficult, because you and I are working together. I might not feel very confident to say, because I'm afraid I'm going to be labeling you by going, "Hey, Roberta, I see that you're frustrated," and then Roberta says, "I'm not frustrated, but I am now." Or, Roberta, I see that
because
you're sad. I'm not. I'm not sad. You're sad. um,
because here's the thing, we put on this mask of I don't want to seem like I have no emotional intelligence at work because
yeah,
I'm gonna miss out on that bonus and that promotion.
right.
It's the survival instinct. You want to look good and professional all the time.
It is. So it's that balance of where maybe it's not, again, it's that cognitive empathy again, where it's instead of it's still acknowledging the emotion, but maybe acknowledging the situation versus putting it on the person. If I don't feel that kind of relationship with you, so I
Mm-hmm.
might just say it looks like this situation has been really frustrating. It looks like this situation has been disheartening.
Ah, back
As
to look at the
yeah,
issue.
that's
Mm-hmm.
right. As we were
Mm,
talking earlier, Roberta, off camera, off the podcast about South Africa as an example, and we were
right.
talking about some of the issues there. And again, I just met you, and I get, so I'm not going to say you must have been disheartened. I said that situation was disheartening
It's very different. Yeah.
because I don't want to label or put my own assumption that you were disheartened, but I'm giving you the option by saying the situation was disheartening. And then you don't feel that I've labeled you. And then I give you the option to go, no, it was okay. Yes, it was very disheartening. Oh, it was more than the disheartening. It was horrible. It was sad, or whatever that is. I'm giving you the option to name the emotions afterwards.
Mm, because I know exactly how I felt at the
You know
time.
exactly how you felt. I can't assume that I know how you feel. So I like what
Okay.
he's saying because it's at least you're taking a stab at it and going, because I see that you're frustrated and you're at least showing that you care. You're showing that. It's just I
Mm.
find working with in the corporate world, I see that so many people struggle with that, to want to say that. So that's why I say sometimes it's better to just keep it to the talk about the situation or the problem, and say that's the emotion around the problem or the situation versus I'm saying you are feeling this.
Right. That's a very good point. Yeah. Now, give us a few minutes summary of what the Great Leadership Podcast is about before you go.
Yeah, for sure. The Great Canadian Leadership Podcast is we have leaders and experts on leadership and communication skills. So, these are often leaders that have invested in their own communication skills to basically to inspire, to create trust, and how they use that to within their teams. And then we also have a segment where we call Failure Ta-da, which is from the world of improvisation, which is to celebrate your failure, and the leader will share um, what was felt like a failure at that time, but then became a huge learning moment for them. So, because there's such a gap we see in the organizations with leaders and their communication skills, this is important to share that leaders are just like everyone else, and they're just trying to find their way. And what they've seen, what works with communication skills and what hasn't worked with communication skills, but it's exactly how we started this podcast. Roberta was talking about
Mm,
that you've gone from managing data or analytics to now you have to manage people,
people.
and it's a whole other skill set, and how you communicate and how you make them feel is going to be very important to sustaining the culture within an organization.
That's really true because it's something that, as I said earlier, they don't teach you that. You learn
No.
the technical skills, but they don't. And now you're just thrown into this deep end, and you must learn to swim.
Yes.
Mm.
It's exactly that. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the celebrating your failures segment of your podcast because one thing leaders have sometimes been accused of is they are not vulnerable enough, or maybe they don't have time to do that, to show the teams that, hey, I'm human too. Hey, I make mistakes too. If I forget to cross my T's and dot my I's, let me know.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's such a good point, because there's a fear for a leader about how vulnerable. They know that vulnerability is important, but how vulnerable should I be? Should I share that, that I had this past and da da da? But there's a fine line. It's really about, if you're sharing your vulnerability, your failure story, is that you're sharing it because there's a learning from that within the corporate environment, and or learning about yourself. And so that's where it's helpful to the people within your organization, is sharing your failures. One was sharing, I singled out someone in a meeting and said, so and so was so good and they did such a great job. And then afterwards, this person came up to the leader and said, just I don't like to be singled out.
Oh no.
And now everybody's coming up to me, and I'm very introverted, and this is making me feel really uncomfortable. And so
the intention was good, though. Back to intention.
That's right. The intention was good. So now the learning from that is, before singling someone out, is check in with them. Go, I'm going to celebrate you at the meeting. I just want to make sure you're okay with that.
Wow. Yeah, that is a very tricky position to be in.
Yeah. So that's an example of a failure. And that's the thing. It's failure is not like everything blew up. It's these subtle moments that you learn from that. And I think that's what, as we know, Roberta, communication, it's subtle.
Yes. Yeah. Because things like, let me give you an example. Maybe, when if he compiles a report to go to the client, and he had a typo on the cover of page or something, sometimes subordinates are afraid to highlight that, because is he gonna think that I see him as incompetent? Is he gonna think I'm not respecting him because he made a typo on this report? Little things like that. Back to subtle as well. Little things like that. So sometimes they become afraid to even show that there's a human side of me. I make little mistakes too.
Yeah, and I love that word, the human side, because it is. It's like, I made a typo. I'm human. I had a momentary lapse.
Exactly. We all do.
We all do. And it builds closeness. People feel, because the challenge for some people is also is how to give feedback to their leader. But if the leader shows that they're open,
yes,
it makes better communication for managing up, as they say, which is you want to share something with your leader, and then everybody grows that way.
But they need to show that human side first for you to be comfortable to manage up.
They need to be the adult in the relationship.
Yes, back to that again.
Yeah. Well, that's what leader is leading the way. And you don't have to be a leader, right? It's just everything we do in life. I'll say this, is that every conversation you have from now on, after listening to this podcast, is your opportunity to make it a brand new conversation.
Oh, so say that again.
Every conversation you have from now on is your opportunity to make it a brand new conversation. Let go of the past and really be more from the world of acting. Be present. Listen to that person. Listen for the emotions that's coming, that you're hearing. Make sure they feel heard. In fact, you could rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 if you want to add logic to it. On a scale of 1 to 10, did you make that person feel heard? On a scale of 1 to 10, did you make that person feel understood? And on a scale of 1 to 10, did you add value? And value means you didn't solve it, but you listened, and maybe you listened for a bit of the subtext that was being said versus trying to solve it. Or were you being competitive? And competitive is making it about yourself, which is, oh, let's go for the steak dinner. That boss. Oh, funny story. I remember when we went to golf, and oh my God, funny, and it becomes all about you. So did I make them feel heard? Did I make them feel understood? Did I add value? Those are the three things you want to be able to do into that new conversation you're going to have.
Which are basic human needs. Isn't that all the acting up is about? We just want to feel heard, understood, and validated.
Yeah. Yeah, we forget it because we're so busy thinking about ourselves. And fair enough. But if these relationships are important to you, then you need to give them importance.
Mm-hmm.
If you're working with someone personally or professionally, and you want to keep that relationship going, but also, I mean, you think about the people that you meet along the way, Roberta, that you've respected are the ones who made you feel heard and understood, even if it was just passing
Right.
by.
Right. They actually say to be interesting, you must be interested in other people.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. And then from the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Dr. Stephen Covey says, seek first to understand, then to be
To
understood.
understood.
Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And that's so true.
Joel Silverstone, thank
Mhm.
you so very much for your time today. I've taken a little bit more than I should have.
Roberta, it was a great conversation. I'm glad. It's so great to have you on this podcast, and so glad to meet and talk about communication skills. And thank you for all your examples too. And
I
thank you for
really enjoyed
participating. And
everything.
thank you for
In
participating
the
in Yes
yes
and.
and the yes part, I really
Yeah.
enjoyed our conversation as well. And I'm going to continue to listen to the Great Canadian Leadership Podcast.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
That was Joel Silverstone, the Senior Professional Skills Trainer and Coach at the Great Canadian Training and Consulting Company. Dropping so many gems today about communication and soft skills. Really appreciate you. Thank you, Joel.
Thank you, Roberta.
So, Joel, before you go, please tell us where we can find you on social media so we can continue this conversation.
Absolutely. Well, do connect with me on LinkedIn. So again, it's Joel Silverstone on LinkedIn. But honestly, if you have any questions or thoughts or comments, you can email me directly, Joel at greatcanadiantraining.ca. That's Joel at greatcanadiantraining.ca, or connect with me on LinkedIn if that's easier to remember. Thank you, Roberta.
Excellent. I'm going to put that on the show notes as well so that everybody can find you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Joel.